Welcome to the Shattering Black Male Stereotypes Empowerment Summit, where our intention is to empower Black men to live extraordinary lives. To ensure that you get the most out of this session, I recommend that you make sure that you're taking notes as you listen to this conversation. You can make mental notes, but I highly recommend that you have a pencil and paper and be sure to jot down any insights that you receive. I also want you to join us in this conversation by leaving a comment or a question at the bottom of this page. All of the questions and comments will receive a response, so be sure and place your comments and questions below. So we're now at day number 7 of the summit, and today we're going to have a conversation about the media-generated illusion that Black men are deadbeat dads. Well, as a father of 3 amazing grown children who are 36, 34, and 31, and who I'm extremely proud of, I can attest to the fact that Black men definitely can be nurturing, loving, caring fathers. So let's begin simply by stating that first and foremost, every Black man has the capacity to be a remarkable father. And so joining me today is Jonathan Oliver, who is the author of Joy in the Journey, which is a wonderful book that chronicles his experience of being a stay-at-home dad. And Jonathan is definitely blazing a new trail for men and leading by example of what a great dad truly is. So it's a great privilege to have him join us today and share his insights and experience with us. So hello, Jonathan. How are you this evening?
Hey, Mike. How you doing, brother?
Man, so glad to have you on this session here, because this is perfectly suited for you. I've watched you grow as a father, and I personally am very proud of the father that you are. And so here's an opportunity for you to share your insights and wisdom with others to support and empower them to be great fathers. So before we get into the conversation, I want you to first of all introduce Jonathan to the audience.
Jonathan to the audience. You know, it starts with the name, right? So to be more connected to the audience, I would encourage you to call me J.O. So It stands for Jonathan Oliver. And that lets me know I'm speaking to someone beyond just a passing you at the local Starbucks. This is a friendly conversation. That means you know some part of me. And J.O. is a person that's imperfectly perfect. I'm every day trying to figure out how I can be better than I was the day before. How can I be more aware of the way I use my language and my tone and my expressions around my wife? How can I be a better person in the community? Am I using my gifts and my talents in a way that I find true fulfillment in my life? You know, where I am right now is kind of interesting. I'm at a crossroads. I'm at a place of trying to not have my identity wrapped up so much in being a dad that I don't have my purpose of feeling what brings me energy in life every day beyond being a father. And that's been in these type of conversations, being around men, being around people that are striving and engaging me to question, what are my motives? What are my actions? Am I living the way I'm talking? Am I matching up accordingly? That's me. That's the person. So I'm very much a self-reflective person, almost self-critical, constantly trying to pick and chip away to where I can feel like I'm really owning what I've grown up wanting to bring into my family life when I was going to be able to start having one, and that's where I am right now. So that's who I am, the man. I like having fun. I'm a big goofball. So I try not to take myself too serious. I used to joke that I kind of looked a little bit more like Eddie George and the Will Smith, but now I feel more like a Sinbad. But but that's me. I'm constantly trying to eat better and have better health and just do this thing in a way that I'm awake. I'm not just asleep at the wheel, but I want to be intentional and purposeful in what I'm doing with my life. And I feel like every day I wake up and try to find out how to do that better.
Nice. So give us a little background on J.O. the professional. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
So it's a multi of things I do. Right now at the top of the list, I'm a stay-at-home dad. So the first couple of months before Journey was born, I started writing a column called Joy in the Journey. and it just chronicled my experience from week to week of the emotions and the energy and the feelings I was having around becoming a dad and then being a dad, all the way up until the first, I would say, year and a half of her life. I published that into an ebook. So that just kept me engaged every day, focusing and trying to figure out how I was going to approach the next week in this writing process based off of the little lessons that I was learning about myself as well about my daughter. And then from there, kind of what was going on before that, I've been a professional speaker for a very long time with an organization called Rachel's Challenge, which was great fulfillment, traveling around the world, speaking about kindness, compassion, character development, unfortunately from one of the first victims of the Columbine shooting. And did that for many years, enjoyed it. And then from there, started out as writing books and was Toastmasters. And I just kind of grassroots guy that always enjoyed speaking, always been connected with people, always kind of called upon in a leadership role, and just wanted to use those gifts and talents in a way that was connecting me with other people and trying to have people bring the best out of themselves. So where I am right now in my life, I'm a professional speaker, stay-at-home dad, writer, and I've really been more serious about becoming a coach. Been working with clients within the last couple of years, and that has really begun to just kind of like light me on fire, just because I can have those one-on-one intimate conversations and get those progress reports on, like, this is really working. People really are valuing the time that we spend together, and they really enjoy paying for it and feel like it's worth the asset that they pay for it. So I enjoy it. It's something that's fascinating to me, because I never really thought that this was going to be the path that I was going to be on. But I'll be honest with you, when I'm not doing it, I really do feel kind of disconnected from myself. So that's J.O. the professional.
Well, coaching is a very powerful process that I highly recommend whoever is watching this session right now to understand that this video is actually a form of coaching. We're sharing some information with you that my hope is that it would empower you in this particular case to become a better father. And so that's specifically what this conversation is going to be about today. But once again, coaching can take many different forms. So J.O., you're definitely perfectly suited to be a coach. That's definitely something that I know that you're very good at, and something that I can tell lights you up. So really, really glad to have you in this conversation. But we're focusing now on J.O. the father, because there is this illusion in our society that Black men are deadbeat dads. Black men can't be great fathers. I mean, if we turn on the television and the media reports, I can see how some people may buy into that illusion. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a conversation. Two brothers having a conversation about what it means to be a father, what it means to be an authentic father. And so one of the things I think one of the challenges we have as men of color, and actually men in general, most of us did not have a positive father figure in our lives. He may have been present, but most fathers really didn't know how to nurture the way I know men are capable of being nurturing. And so I want to begin, first of all, by asking you, so what kind of relationship did you have with your own father?
Man, this is a complex question. It can almost bring up a lot of emotions. And so I just share very quickly, I haven't spoken with my dad in almost February 1st would be 2 years since the last time I spoke with my dad. I left him a voicemail last Friday at 12 p.m. And just let him know that we were getting ready to expect our second child, that it was going to be a girl, and that she was going to be due May 18th. So the reason why I say I get very emotional around this is that growing up as a young man, I had a very close relationship with my dad. My dad was like my hero. My parents divorced at a very young age. I never remember my parents being married. And my dad really made it a point to be in my life. I can count on one hand how many high school football games he missed. My dad went to jail for being, oh my goodness, I can't tell you how many months behind on child support, because he would give us the money to purchase what we needed for school based off the fact that he felt like He knew exactly what the money was being used for, but unfortunately the system doesn't play like that. You needed to pay child support. So, my dad would give his shirt and die for me in a heartbeat. So growing up as a kid, I really just looked at him as, to him, he was God. That was my relationship with God. The way I viewed my father was directly the way I viewed God. And then as I got older, and I began to really get out into the world, I began to see parts of my dad that he didn't want me to see. I can never remember my dad being faithful to a woman. I don't remember in my family growing up, if you had anything less than 1 or 2 girlfriends, you was considered weak or soft. It wasn't unusual for me to go to church and my dad to be a deacon in church and then having a whole nother life outside of church, and it was almost one of those things, do what I mean, not what I say, like an unspoken set of rules. If you're going to school, you're getting an education, if you're cheating, don't get caught, don't get nobody pregnant, don't get a disease, that type of stuff I grew up with. So it wasn't until I got out into like college and outside of college and graduated from college, and I really began to kind of have this conversation with Jonathan, with J.O., like who am I in the mirror when I look back? Do I like this person? Why am I always in and out of relationships? Why do I feel so unfulfilled when I'm in a relationship? And then in that journey, I began to really look at the person who I idolized the most closest to me, which is my dad. And it was years that I just held on to this fear that if I really share my truth with my dad, I can lose that relationship. And I was constantly reminded as a young man growing up that my dad didn't have to be here. He could have been like other fathers, but he chose to be here. So it was a little bit of a guilt trip type thing brought into the conversation. Like he meant the best, but it was brought with a sense of a fear that it can always change a different direction. So it's a complex question. As I got older and I really began to become more of a man and realize who I wanted as for my daughter, I realized I could not die or have my father die without sharing my truth with him. So I often describe my dad as I got older as having a relationship with the bear with the bomb in its mouth. That even when I got the bomb taken out of the bear's mouth, I still wonder if the bear is going to turn around and take my head off, because it was so much hurt and anger and pain if he was ever questioned on anything. So all the rules applied unless it was to my dad. And he meant the best and he did the best he could. But unfortunately, when the accountability comes to just him personally, it was always never something that was faced head on, or who do you think you are? I'm your dad. How dare you think you're going to speak to me like this? Versus a man saying, hey, Pop, I love you. I love being your son. I'm love that you're my father, but I want to give you permission to just be my dad by being who you really are, not by trying to want me to see who you're not, because knowing I'm seeing both people hurts me when I'm on the phone, because I can't be real with you because you're not really being who you really, really are. You're trying to pretend who you don't want me to see. And I shared that with you because my dad is my mirror. He's my reflection. I have been my dad in my life. And the reason I knew that I needed to have that conversation with that man is so that I wouldn't be that man in my marriage. I wouldn't be that man with my daughter. I wouldn't be the man who want my daughter Journey and my soon-to-be second daughter everything I want in life, but I don't want her to see my flaws or my shortcomings or pretend like I got a double life. So it's a complex question just due to the fact that my dad was there. He was there and he was loving, and he, give the gifts and spend the time and had the energy and taught the lessons. But as I gotten older and become, I'm 38 years old now, it became reality that it was a lot of pain in that relationship, that he didn't view me no more he never viewed me as a man growing up. He always viewed me as a little boy. And when it was time to cut the card and have a clean break, it was always done with the edge of conflict. And that's one of the things I want to teach my daughter, is that it doesn't have to be a conflict in the growth of the process of father-daughter or father-child. So meaning one day when she's born, I'm going to be her general manager. Then one day I'm going to be the coach. And then one day I'm just going to be the fan. And each role is important in that child's life to be celebrated. I never could be, when my dad realized that I wasn't calling him for money, we struggled in our relationship. I remember literally setting my dad one day to the side where I just left my uncle's funeral. And I remember sitting in the truck with him. I said, Dad, why don't you call me and just say you love me? Why don't you just call me and just say what's up? He always felt like I need to be calling him. I should call him. I need to check in on him. And I'm like, just because I don't ask you for money doesn't mean I don't need you in my life. I say the reason I don't ask you for money is because the number one lesson you kept telling me in life growing up as a young man, the best gift you can ever give me is the gift of being able to take care of yourself. And that's exactly what I did. So after about the third time my cell phone got cut off in college, you think I called my dad? No, I didn't spend no money at the club that month. And then after I got tired of making up lies, saying why my phone always was the one getting cut off, I realized I need to pay my bills so I can have my phone. I didn't run to ask my dad for money for that. But if I would have been asking for money, I feel like he felt like he would have been needed. And I think sometimes that's what our relationship took a turn, because he felt like he wasn't needed. And you are needed. I'm always going to be needed by my daughter because I'm a father.
Right.
That doesn't mean she needs me to control her life. She just may want me just to be in her life, just to be there.
But see, you've you've laid a great foundation for this conversation, because all of us have our stories with our fathers. And the question becomes, what are we going to do to make sure that we don't replicate what our fathers did for us? And so what I admire about you, J.O., is the fact that you've taken the time to, number one, reflect on your relationship with your father and make sure that you're not transferring negative attitudes and things toward your daughter, because you want to be the best father that you can be. And that's commendable. The fact that you've taken the time to get to know J.O. and then looking at the relationship that you had with your father and saying, you know what, I'm not going to act consistent with that. I'm going to be a better man. I'm going to be the best man that I can be. And that's what this whole summit is about. How can we become the best fathers possible? In this session, that's what we're focused on. How can we become the best fathers possible? So Jay, I want to start at the beginning, because you've kind of shared a little insight about your relationship with your father. And we must understand that our relationship with our fathers do not have to dictate the relationship we have with our children. So you could have the absolute worst father in the world and still become a great father. I'm living proof of that. So as you're watching this video and you're listening to this conversation, I want you to recognize that your past does not have to determine your future. Your relationship with your father does not have to be the relationship you have with your child. You can change. You can break the cycle, if you will. For example, I didn't have a relationship with my father, but at a very early age, I made the commitment, and I'll never forget, I was probably 10 years old when I made a commitment that when I had kids, I was going to be a great dad. And the reason I made that commitment was because my dad was such a terrible dad. And so as a result of that commitment, I decided that no matter what it took, I was going to be a great father. And so since my dad didn't teach me how to be a great dad, how did I learn? I read books. I went to seminars. I did my own work. I recognized that I needed to look at some issues that actually were the result of the relationship I didn't have with my dad. I had to look at that to make sure that I didn't repeat some of those same patterns. So it was a process for me. It's a process of growth to uncovering the issues that we may not be aware of, which are the result of the relationship we had with our father. So my point here is that we as men must be willing to look within and to ask ourselves deeper questions. And the simple question that we want to ask tonight is, how can I become the best father that I can be? That's the question. And I want you to answer that question for yourself, viewers. So Jay, I wanna start by having a conversation because as men, a lot of times we don't speak openly and honestly about the stuff that's real in our lives. As men, we can shoot the breeze and talk about external things, but I want to get real for a moment because being a father is not easy. Being a father is full of challenges. So I want you to kind of reflect, Jonathan, on your experience when you first found out that you were going to be a dad, when you first found out that your wife was pregnant. Go back to that time and try to reflect. What was that like for you when you found out you were going to be a dad?
So a couple of things come up. It was towards the end of January. I just got off the road from a speaking engagement. I was in Bermuda for about a week. Just came back into the country, and my wife, oh man, bless her little heart. I had told her for years. I said, look, I set up the perfect engagement for you, okay? You was completely surprised. So don't let me walk in the door and you just tell me you pregnant, okay? If you tell me that, I'm gonna be pissed, okay? Because this is your time to shine and surprise me, because I surprised you. She's like, oh my goodness. So I remember being in Bermuda, and I remember speaking with her, and I know my wife and I know her body, and I knew that she was kind of like something was off. I'm like, hey, we gonna feel like we late on some stuff, huh? She's like, no, we on time. I'm like, man, she's lying. So I flew from Bermuda to Philly. I did a presentation in Philly, and then when I got back to Texas, I was driving home from the airport, and I just felt this sense of like something's about to change in my life. I remember this drive home. It was like a Sunday afternoon. No, it was a Saturday morning. And I just remember something's about to change. So I walked in. My wife had cooked me breakfast. I got in about 10:30, 11 o'clock. And she's like, you want anything to eat? You need anything to eat? You need anything? I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm cool. And then she said, all right, well, turn around and I'm going to give you this. And I said, okay. So I turned around and she gives me this card. And on this card, it said, God has blessed us with our fur babies. So it had like our first dog we had together, our 2 dogs we had currently, and then it had our cat. And then when I opened it up, she said, with holding her hand over her stomach, she said, now God has blessed us with our own baby Oliver. And I turned around, and she was wearing like this little like nice dress, man. And I like picked her up and hugged her, started crying. And she had these, and I still have them in Journey's room. She had these 2 little tiny, like little paint buckets, but they were really tiny. And she had 6 golf balls inside painted blue. And then in the other one, she had 6 golf balls painted pink, because I love playing golf. And the blue bucket was painted blue and the other bucket was painted pink. And then in the center, she had these little white shoes with crosses on the foot. And I saw that, and and she videotaped the whole thing. And I'm bawling and everything. And so that was my first initial feeling right there, man. I was just really in the moment with her and captured it, and it was beautiful. Then a couple of things came up after about the time it dwindled. The first thing came up, I'm dyslexic and I have ADHD. So I know that those are both things that can be passed on to your children. And the gift of being dyslexic for me is just that it's a gift. I love it, but it wasn't always the reality that I feel today. At one point, I felt like it was a curse and everything in between. And then as well as being ADHD, I didn't find that out until at least 10 years after I found out I was dyslexic. So find out I'm dyslexic at 23, a junior in college, studying to become a doctor. And then almost 7 years later, I found out I have ADHD. So that's the next thing that came into my mind. Is like, man, where are my flaws that are going to be passed on to my child, right? That means it's kind of crazy that I would think that deep on something that should be so joyful. And then lastly, the next thing that popped into my mind was like the sins of my father, right? Like I did not want to repeat the patterns of things that my dad had necessarily didn't do or did do or whatever with my child, if it was going to be a boy or girl. And that really is what kind of resonated with me more than anything was, the sins of my father. And yeah, so that was kind of my experience with that.
So what was the experience like holding your child for the first time?
You know, it's funny. So my daughter's name is Journey, and that's why our Facebook page is called Joy the Journey and all that stuff. So we had a playlist in the room when my wife Saran was giving birth to Journey, and my wife Saran is a runner. She runs marathons and she's very athletic and great shape. So she only pushed for like an hour. So Journey was born on 722 on September 27th, 2015. So we have this playlist, and on this playlist, it's like Salt and Pepper, Push It, Diana Ross, I'm Coming Out, Rocky Out of Tiger. And earlier in the day, before she went into labor, or like serious labor, earlier in the day, I kind of got on my motivation to kick, and she was like, too early. Just kind of pump the brakes. I haven't had my epidural yet. It's just 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Chill. So when it came for the actual time to get down to business, man, I'm coaching her up and I'm taking her to the visuals, just like running a marathon and push. And the people in the room are like, these two are for real right now. My mother-in-law is a nurse. She's been a nurse for like 37 years. So I'm thinking she's seen babies delivered every day. This is the first time she ever seen a child delivered. She said if she would have seen a kid delivered, she would have never became a nurse because she's freaking out. And me and my wife, man, we're on it. So finally, the song Don't Stop Believing by the group Journey comes on, by the band Journey. And I look over at my wife as if she hadn't been pushing for an hour. And I say, look, you got to get her out on this song. I said, man, if you get her out on this song, we got a story to tell for the rest of our life. And she's looking at me like, whoa. You know, so lo and behold, when she gets her out and the whole room is yelling, don't stop believing. And
nice story.
I have this green shirt, and if you look in my closet, and you might just, my wife doesn't even know this probably. If you look, I know she doesn't actually. If you look in the closet, it just looks just like any green shirt. It's just a green t-shirt, but this is a shirt I was wearing when Journey was born. And I make it a point to wear it on her birthday. I don't tell anybody, I just wear it, right? But I still love this little green shirt. So I had that little green shirt on. I bent down and I was ready, man. I told her to I cut the card and man, I went in. It was beautiful. She was crying. We had and the great man, my dad was there. He was all happy. We were proud of him. We were hugging each other, my mom, everybody. It was beautiful. Laid down, put on my chest, did a chest to chest, skin to skin thing. And I mean, it was great. I looked at her, man, like it was one of the most amazing things in the world. Just see her little head come in and just hear her cry. And now I'm looking at her run around and count to 10 and all. It's just amazing.
So again, I want to kind of piggyback on that experience because having a child, for me personally, I know it definitely changed me in ways that I can't even describe in words. But I remember the first time I held my son. My former wife and I actually had two names, and we had chosen, but we decided that we would wait until after he was born before we would pick the name. Well, when I'm in the hospital, when the doctor handed him to me, and as I was holding him, and as I looked at him, it was as though I were looking at myself. And I looked at him and he just kind of smiled at me and it just came out, Michael. I had never planned on naming him after me, but when I held him, it was like holding myself. It was the most amazing thing. And I just looked at this little miracle and I was like, whoa, that's Michael. And I named him. And again, I didn't want a junior. I never thought about having a junior, but there was something that happened when I held him for the first time that I was so connected to him. He was a part of me. And I just said, Michael. And my former wife looked at me, she kind of smiled and she said, that's okay. We'll name him Michael. So it's a powerful, powerful experience. And so that's the beautiful part about it. But of course, there comes challenges raising kids. And so Johnson, since we're kind of getting tight on time, I just want to touch upon just a couple of the challenges. Raising a kid is tough. And you're breaking new ground from a male perspective, being a stay-at-home dad. I mean, there are a lot of men, and as a matter of fact, I would assert that most men aren't up to that challenge. most men, I would say, don't think they're capable of being the nurturer, aren't capable of being that emotional support, but yet you take that challenge on so openly and so acceptingly. I mean, it's amazing how you just jumped right in and say, you know, I got this. So you and your wife obviously sat down and made a decision that you were going to be that stay-at-home dad. So making that decision, what was that like for you, making that decision?
Honestly, it was a no-brainer. I met my wife studying for the MCAT, and we both was getting ready to go to med school to be doctors, and I realized this wasn't for me. And, you know, taking something as daunting as becoming a physician, it's not something you just do and quit I feel like when you put all that time investing in it, right? I mean, you spend 12 years to become a physician and you just stop. I mean, so we pretty much knew that unless my career was something that was going to be, you know, crazy, I was probably going to be staying home. And we just kind of, as we got closer to really, you know, deeper in our marriage, because we waited 5 years before we had our first child, it was like we want one of us to be home. And to be very frank with you, I feel comfortable saying this, and I know my wife would agree. It's actually a role that God designed me for. You know, for the both of us being married, I would I'm better suited for this role than my wife is. I do everything but breastfeed, but my temperament is a little bit better. I'm a sit down, explain it to you. I'm gonna talk to you. I'm gonna get on your level. I'm very much a structured person, so I keep a schedule. It just innately came to me. You know, I almost, with our second child, my wife just told me last week we were having a girl, and I was actually wanting to more likely have a girl than a boy, just because I have kind of like that idea of how things flow right now. So it just worked for us. The funny thing, it's probably been more difficult getting family members to understand that I'm not just trying to keep my daughter alive. I'm like raising her. Like I'm like this is what I do. This is not like I'm keeping her alive just for the next person to come in. It's like, no, you know, this is what I do, and this is how we do it. And I read, I study, I connect with other fathers, other mothers, I ask questions, all types of things. But I've read a lot of books. One great book called Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters. The most challenging thing I would say that has been in the whole process, it's not so much as being a father, it's about being a husband. I would tell anybody, especially if you're married, the number one goal when you're being a parent is to let your child see you love your spouse. And before any tea party, before any diaper, before anything that does with my child, she needs to see and feel, like really feel it, because they can sense the energy in the room of being in a safe, loving marriage, and with the marriage of the spouse and the husband and wife. And when they feel that and they know that, when my daughter sees me hug her mama, oh man, she just comes in the middle of us and she wants to do the family hug. She loves that. So that's the biggest challenge, because we went through a lot of hard times on reestablishing communications. My wife's dealing with the guilt of not being at home. And sometimes my daughter would show certain types of favoritism towards me based off, or she need to come ask me, how are we doing this? Or why is this type of way of, that is what's the challenge. It's not the diaper and the bottle. And it's like, okay, these roles are so reversed. And they not reversed like I'm just barely hanging on, like, man, she get home, oh yeah. It's like, no, it's reversed to like, no, he is fine. Like, go to Puerto Rico with your girlfriends go have fun, go get you some woman time. We cool, you know? And he's really serious. So that's the real challenge. And we've done that. Like, she was studying for the board. Go take your board review so you can take care of your business and make sure we got a job and we got a roof over our head. I got this, do your thing, I do my thing. We're going to do this. and that's great that we have that in our marriage. So it's been learning how to, Jonathan and Saran, talk, communicate, work through, understand, and value one another with the understanding that it may not look the same in an everyday setting for most people's families.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. But that's inspiring. I'm just filled with pride as you shared that, because I know that your heart is there, and as you mentioned, you were born to do this. It's just a natural reflection of who J.O. is, that loving, caring, nurturing person. And to be able to do that with your daughter, I mean, it's going to create a bond that can't be broken.
Mike, I will say something real quick, and thank you for that. I will say something real quick. So my wife, we named our daughter Journey, and my mom helped us pick the name out because we love to travel. And this past April, we went to Belize. And we were in Belize, my wife and I, and we were just unhappy. And we had, the year before, we went to Jamaica. We had a great time. It was a great trip. It was our first trip outside without our daughter, and we had a blast. Well, fast forward, the next year, my daughter's maybe 19 months old, and we're in Belize, and we're not having a good vacation, man. It's not. It's just we're bickering at one another, and we're doing the surface stuff, and we're having the margaritas, but at night and in quiet times, we're just not clicking. And I'm saying this to make this point. As men and as women and as husband and wives, you have to identify with, sometimes we have to go outside ourselves to get professional help. And we went to a marriage counselor, and that's been one of the best decisions we ever could have done, because, you know, she told us in the middle, soon we walked in and said, look, you got all these stresses. You know, you both moved from Texas to go to Oklahoma. You started a whole nother career, Jonathan, from speaking in front of, you know, thousands of people to just having a relationship with the person who don't talk back to you. Your wife is starting a practice. You're building a house, and you're trying to get established in a community together. And that's a lot of stress. And we were literally quick 0 to 100 with one another. And then we really kind of got a new set of tools, and somebody mediate how we were both feeling behind the words we were not expressing or were expressing one another. And then, like, about 2 months ago, our marriage counselor lady was like, look, you guys came in here and your marriage is literally a 92. It was great. You just need to work through some stuff. And now you're trying to figure out how to get a 95. And you guys don't really got you don't have no real serious stuff going on. You got the tools, you know what to do. So we kind of see her every once in a while just for like a check-in. But that's one of the best things we could have done for ourselves. But we have to be willing to get that professional help, somebody that can put a fresh set of eyes on it and let us know that we both are coming from a place of love. Unfortunately, I feel like people wait to do that too late. And it's like, well, I'm gonna make a new normal. The new normal is I'm comfortable with being mad and angry, and I'm just gonna be like this. And I'm like, no. We gotta flesh some stuff out. And we were at a place when, and I wouldn't be surprised when we have the second kid that we might have to go back and go through the process again, just because it's a truly life-changing on everybody's accord. And for the betterment of not so much of Journey, but for Saran and my wife and I. That's the part that's so important. It's not what makes me a great dad is making sure that I'm learning how to be a great husband. And I kid you not, it's easier to focus on the dad part. That's the easy part. The work is focusing on the husband part. That's the part that makes it worthwhile.
Well, you have spoken volumes. And so for the viewers, I hope you heard what J.O. just shared, because especially as men of color, I think the 3 most difficult words for us to say as men is "I need help." And we've got to let go of that illusion that we can carry the weight of the world on our shoulders, and we have to understand that there's no shame in saying "I need help," and that can come in a lot of different forms. And the fact that you were courageous enough, Jonathan, J.O., to say, you know what, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make sure my marriage works. And so if that means I'm going to go get help, that's what I'm going to do. So I commend you wholeheartedly on your willingness to do that. And so for the viewers, I want you to recognize and know that there comes a time when we all need support. We all need help. And it's not a sign of weakness to say, I need help. And if you're really committed to being a great father, as J.O. keeps saying, you know, being a husband, that's priority number one, because everything kind of follows that. And I love what you said, J.O., about the best thing you can do for your daughter is to love her mom. And that speaks volumes. That speaks volumes. So when we can create those types of bonds with our mates, our kids will follow. You know, that relationship will follow. And so you're leading by example, by sharing the love, sharing yourself, being connected. And that it's commendable. And so for the viewers, I just want to say, you know, this conversation is about dispelling the stereotype that Black men aren't great fathers, because we are, and we can be. Do we have challenges? Of course we do. All men do. But as men of color, we must have this conversation with each other. Be open and honest about the challenges, because again, there are challenges in being a parent. It's challenging. But at the same time, I don't think there's anything more rewarding to have a child come running up to you when you come home from work or something, and that kid grabs you and hugs you and tells you how much they love you. I can't think of a better feeling in the world. I'm gonna be honest. I can't think of a better feeling in the world. Everything that I've accomplished pales in comparison to knowing that my kids love me for me as a father. And all my kids are grown, and yet they still tell me how much they love and appreciate me as a dad. So I kept a commitment to myself that I was going to be a great father, and I have kept that commitment by being a great dad. And so I want all the viewers to know that it is possible, but it takes effort. It definitely takes effort, and it begins with our willingness to uncover or discover any issues that we may have about ourselves first. And that's why the previous session we were talking about emotions and getting in touch with your emotions and how important that is. Well, that's one of the keys or the foundations of creating great relationships, is being in touch with how we feel and being able to express that. And when we can gain the emotional tools to do that, we can automatically become great parents. So Jay, I just want to say, man, thank you so much for sharing. We need another hour to kind of continue this conversation, but I think we've given the viewers food for thought. And so now I'd like to give you an opportunity just to sort of close out with your closing thoughts to the viewers about whatever comes to mind from your perspective as a parent.
You know, I want to say it like this. First off, there are a lot of resources that can help you, whoever you are, become the man and the father you want to be. So for me, you know, the opportunity that I'm having right now, even speaking with Mike, is that God blessed me with men to stand in the gap. Okay. And then after you find these people that stand in the gap, there are a lot of good books to read. I'm reading a good book right now called A Resolution for Men. It's a good book called Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters. A lot of great resources. But the last thing I want to say this, it doesn't matter if your father and your son is 20 or if your son is 2. The relationship is do what you mean and mean what you say, because you're never going to not be their father or in their life. You're going to always be their father. So it's important that they always see you as being who you are. You're consistent. That's who you are. And if you do make a mistake and you do make a wrong, you are quick to rush to them. You know, I rap like this. I wrote a letter to my daughter when she turned 1 so that she can read when she's older. And the letter simply is, the synopsis is, it's nothing more or less that she can ever do that's going to stop her from being my daughter. She can never break the circle of being my daughter. She can never do something so wrong that she's not my daughter. And she can never be something so great that she's always going to be my daughter, no matter where our relationship is. And I'm always going to be willing to make sure that relationship is good with both of us. And that's a gift that I want to make sure I give her. And the reason why I say that, because it's the same relationship we have ideally with God. It's nothing more or less than I can ever do that's going to cause God to love me any more or less than he does right now. It's just, I can't mess it up. And I think that's a great expression of like, oh man, cool. I can't mess it up. Awesome. and that's where it's important. So, cause I feel like sometimes dads get to be 30, 40, 50 years old and they're just like, man, I've already made these mistakes. I messed up too many Thanksgivings. I messed up too many Christmases. Screw it. It's just the way it is. Like, no, it don't have to be like that. They're always going to be, your blood is always in their system. So make sure that system is always flowing. But thanks for the opportunity. I hope this has been a blessing and shine some encouragement on the viewers, and that this is real. This is real, and it's really happening. It's not a dream, and black men are out here doing it, and we're doing it well.
There you go. There you go. So my closing thoughts. As human beings, we're perfectly imperfect. And as a father, if you have a child that you have not been in contact with, it's never too late to reestablish that bond. May not be easy, but it's never too late. You simply have to make that commitment that you're going to do whatever it takes to create that bond. My hope is that this conversation has given you some fuel for contemplation to really think about, what kind of father am I? And just simply commit to being the best father that you can be. You don't have to be perfect. Be perfectly imperfect, but just make sure that you're in communication and connection with that person that you brought into the world. That's important. Our kids need us. They need us to be there for them in all ways, physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. And in order to do that, we have to be whole men, complete men. And that's what this summit is about. It's hopefully inspiring you to become a whole man. That's why we've got all these different sessions to cover all aspects of your humanity. And so this section about being a great father is one that is absolutely critical to the success of us as a group. We have to move away and break free from the negative stereotypes that we aren't great dads, because we are. All we have to do is commit to being what I know we are. So know that you can be a great father. It's just a matter of choice. So choose to be the best father that you can possibly be. So remember, look below me here. We've got a comments section. I'd love to get your comments. Definitely post questions. If you have questions for Jay or I, just post them in the comments below. Every question, every comment will be responded to. So that's what we set that section up for you, because we want you to grow. We want you to learn, and we want you to grow. And that's the whole intention. So with that, J.O., I just want to say thank you, man, for the amazing man that you are. Once again, I want to congratulate you on that upcoming addition to your family. You get to do this again. And that, hey, you're a veteran now, man. This is going to be
I got to keep myself employed.
This is going to be easy. So once again, this has been Shattering Black Male Stereotypes Empowerment Summit. And once again, this is day 7. We got day 8 coming up for you tomorrow. So stay tuned for more powerful, impactful information that's designed to empower you to live an extraordinary life. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.